Happy 4th of July. Now, I know all of you in the States are enjoying today. You're barbecuing, you're hanging out with loved ones, and that's exactly how it should be today. Here in Costa Rica, it's just another Tuesday. It's a Taco Tuesday. Now, if I wanted to do like everybody else, I would drive the 5 hours to San Jose to hit up the U.S. Embassy. They have a big thing every year where they have hot dogs, bands, fireworks, the whole thing. But that's a long way just to go for a hot dog and fireworks. A couple of the local beach communities, I think, are having fireworks this evening. So I may try to get out and get to one of those. Or go out and have a hot dog somewhere. Hot dogs are certainly plentiful here. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. I have two different topics. My name is Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write a column called No Longer Quivering for Pathos. It was a column all about the quiverful evangelical movement and the greater evangelical movement, these evangelical churches that have no denomination they actually belong to. They're just kind of making it up as they go along. I like to call those taco churches. Thank you, Cindy Kunzman, for pointing me to that term. Totalitarian, authoritarian church organizations. It's a really good descriptor of a lot of them because they are kind of like their own little fiefdoms where they want you to go sig heil to whoever the pastor is, basically. And you live and die by your proximity to the pastor. Don't harass or harangue or be ugly to anybody I'm going to talk about here. And it's not going to be all just Taco Tuesday. Why? Because I was just watching LB, who I actually like LB. I'm going to put a link to her channel in the description below. She's a way bigger creator than I, but that's not why I'm quoting her. She was making me laugh this morning. I don't always watch her. I don't always catch her lives, but every now and then I manage to do that. This morning she was talking about Backwoods Barbie. Now, why would that concern me? Well, you know, I launched my channel before the whole Katie Joy thing. And it was the only reason I launched it was at the time Pathos was pushing all of us to find alternate things to do like that, to do podcasts, to do YouTube, to just do TikTok, whatever there was to drive eyeballs to Pathos, because at the time Pathos was struggling financially, if I recall correctly. Oh, and these are just my opinions, so don't take what I'm saying as gospel fact. To quote Renell Smith, another creator I love, who I'm going to leave in the description, do your own research and come to your own conclusions. So, Backwoods Barbie is one of a crop of people that popped up after Katie Joy Paulson, Catherine Paulson, KJ, whatever you want to call her, started doing YouTube in a serious fashion. Now, Katie started, I guess, in 2000, I want to say 2019. It may, yeah, with the YouTube. She was on a couple other people's YouTube channels before that. And she quickly made a name for herself for using spurious rumors as fact and just making things up. She's kind of like it's the character of Harold in the Book of Mormon, making things, oh, Arnold, making things up again, Arnold. So she's very much like that and has a really bad reputation for that sort of thing. And I've talked about her here, gracious, a lot because she did a number of really bad things to me. The worst thing she did was steal a lot of my written content from Pathos and turn it into content of her own, including my own story of how I joined and I left an old fundamentalist church. So Backwoods Barbie came out of that. And at first it was all Katie Joy all the time, like a lot of us did in that time frame. And while many of us branched out to other content, like I don't want to talk about Katie Joy unless there's a lawsuit involved, then I'm going to talk about the lawsuit. And there are others too, LB included. It's not all their content. And there are those people it's all their content, and that's fine if that's what they want. you are the only one to determine what your content is. Well, Backwoods Barbie has bitched, moaned, complained, whined the whole 9 yards about everyone stealing her content, nobody crediting her, bringing up her mental health if you criticize her, and just a bunch of this random nonsense that I've seen through the years. And I've kind of laughed at her a little bit myself and poked at her when she does some of these things. Well, she's been coming after LB with a serious hard on for a while, saying, oh, LB used this. Then she was mad about Shiny Happy People used like a millisecond clip of her voice. Oh, they didn't credit me, oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, welcome to the club, girl. If I had $1 for every time I've talked to somebody writing an article or doing a documentary or whatever, and they've used the content I've given them freely, by the way, if I had $1 for that, I might be able to line my hot tub in solid gold. I don't know what that would be like. That would the gold get soft and pelty? Anyway, so she has done that and complaining, and it's just gotten almost farcical at this point. You could almost make fun of her and do a parody of her if you were so meanly inspired. Catch me on the right day to do that. So LB pointed out a very important thing about her and other creators that are claiming that their info is being stolen. And it's not like these people are doing something like writing where they're having to call up this stuff out of their brain and do whatever. One of the videos that LB was showing was literally Backwoods Barbie reading an article from The Sun. Instead of saying, hey, I saw this on The Sun, go look yourself, Barbie was acting like this was her exclusive content. Do you know who else does that? Miss Catherine Joy. So as time has spiraled on, we're watching some creators becoming more and more KJ-like. So keep that into consideration. If somebody is constantly complaining that nobody ever quotes them or gives them props or thanks them, and then you see them doing something like that, just know that that's what they're like. That and people who will do like 50,000 trillion videos in a row on one person, particularly if it's one person who's kind of minuscule and weird, like say a person who does 10,000 videos on Michelle Sabata. Michelle goes live. You just have to look at these things and go, look at the source, and just kind of go from there and figure out who it is you're watching and who they're coming, where they're getting their info from. I'm not saying that these people can't be entertaining, because clearly they can. Backwoods Barbie is definitely entertaining when she starts going on her rants, when she starts demanding money to live on and all that. That's actually kind of, sometimes it's kind of funny. And then there was a time she came in here and I jokingly said that $100,000 wasn't much to live on, because in the DC area it's not. And she got very offended and was like, Mississippi, you could live like a king. I had to go back and take a look, and it's like, she's right. You could live quite well in Mississippi for that kind of money. But what are the chances of making that kind of money in Mississippi? There just aren't those kind of opportunities unless you're bringing it with you and you're living off your own income and things. So it's all relative, and that's what I want to say about all this material and things that people are using. It's all relative. We all talk about the Duggars. There's a lot to talk about the Duggars. I've been writing about Duggars, let's see, almost 2.5 years. I think I've been going for patios, and let me think about that one a minute. Yeah, 2.5 years, almost 3. And before that, I wrote about them for 10 years, 10 long years. I don't even like writing about Duggars. I don't like thinking about them. And things like Shiny Happy People make it glaringly obvious you have to say something. So I'll leave most of that Duggar noise to the Duggarites, who are using the Duggars like somebody is using the coal that someone else has dug up. Frankly, the Duggars aren't really that interesting. Okay, so if you want to skip ahead past me griping about people like Backwoods Barbie who don't credit anybody, here it is. This is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something that I get asked quite a bit on Twitter, on YouTube, on um, Facebook, different groups. And when I used to be asked about this all the time, and no longer quivering. This is my Taco Tuesday real content, not that Backwoods Barbie nonsense. Um, People ask me, how do I speak to my family member, best friend, whomever who has fallen down the well of these types of high high demand religious groups? How do I reach them? How do I talk about to them to make them see the futility of the work of what they're doing? Here's the thing, you don't. Why? Because if you start talking to them about what it is they're doing, if they are firmly entrenched, and most of them are, in what they're doing, the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to mark you as what is it that they say in Scientology is a subversive person. They're going to mark you down in their minds as a sinner beyond redemption. Or else they're going to try to start converting you. They're going to start telling you about the wonders of Jesus and why you should be following their personal brand of Jesus. How every other church is riding the goat backwards down to Satan, and they're the only ones with the answer. So it's really risky to say anything to them about their religious beliefs. It's incredibly risky. The best thing you can do is just be there for them, to be as empathetic and kind as you can be as non-judgmental as you can be. If they say something about the organization and they tell you, I'm worried because X, Y, or Z, or I have doubts, that's a whole different ballgame. That does open the door for you to have conversations with them about why you believe they're in a taco type church. But you have to wait for that. You can't force it. You can't say, "Oh, I just need to talk to them and they'll do it." No, no, indeed. That is the quickest way to drive them closer and closer to what it is. And it ultimately is something that that individual has to make a decision to leave. One thing I'm realizing as I'm going back and reading my book that I'm trying to get ready, and this is not helping because I can only use this hand on the computer, which makes editing difficult. Um, One thing I'm realizing is that I papered over a lot of cracks for a long, an eon, an age, an era, an ice age, a whole Jurassic age. I papered over that crap and just put things on the back burner and thought, well, I'll think about that later, or that's how they think. That is not me. Okay. So that's one thing that your loved one is doing. They are going to have to paper over 5 trillion cracks until they eventually crack. One of the things that was really interesting is I cleaned out an old email box yesterday, and I came across my old journal from my days back with my old group. And it was maybe 3 years before I left. And it was interesting reading through it. I was talking about praying that I would get inexpensive curtains for my kids' bedrooms. I was praying for that. I was praying that the bread outlet store would give me the best price ever, and they did. They gave me some extra discounts. I was praying over the fabric store would give me discounts, and I got all of it. Here's a little quote. Funnily enough, we've been praying before we even went shopping that our money would be supernaturally multiplied many times, and it was. There's no coming up against that kind of thinking. When someone is that enmeshed in that, For you to say these things, for you to say, okay, that's my talk. For you to say those things, there's nothing that a family member, a loved one is going to say to get that out of you because that's what you believe. That is your reality. Your reality is not reality. Your reality is this magical thinking that people do where they're enmeshed in these kinds of places. Um, so I was talking about, I got a 50% off some of the lame and the glittery chiffon I needed to make worship flags with. And we got extra discounts at the bread store, just all of that. Um, and I was talking about the main part of one the same heading was after we did all this shopping, we had to go out and do a house cleansing. What is a house cleansing, I hear you say? Well, in my old high demand religious organization church, we believed in the demonic pretty damn hard and believed that demons are responsible for things that I see now are just human stupidity. I'm not saying there can't be evil, because clearly there is. How can you explain some of the things that have happened in this world without acknowledging there is evil and there is good? But I don't think that everything that churches like this scream is demons or is X, Y, or Z. I don't think any of that is usually demons. That's usually stupid. It's usually people doing their own selves in. Why is it so hot here all of a sudden? And I'm trying to do this while I got electricity because yesterday was out for a long time. Um, so I was saying, very long story. It was a story, a powerful evil being that was distinctly non-human. It was very powerfully negativity, thriving and feeding on negative emotions and responses. And it manifested a number of times and hit us with its worst evil: noise, lights, nasty smells. Yeah, I believe that then. I believe that that house was full of demons. And then my friend said that there were three different ones that had come in from three different people on the same day. And my friend told him which friends of his had brought the demons in. And it was just a hot mess of stupid. I'm going to have to write a chapter and use this to explain, because this is actually how they think when they're in the midst of some of these churches. It doesn't make any kind of logical sense if you are trying your darndest to understand what's going on. There's no logic that you can apply to that is going to reach somebody. They have to actually start to just become so exhausted from papering over the cracks in their own theology that they're starting to hear what you're saying. They're starting to hear what other people are saying. They're starting to doubt a little bit. That might give you an opening for that. But if there is no opening for those things, then what you do is you just love that person and you just give them space. You don't criticize what they're doing overly much unless they're doing something like the Pearl child discipline I demonstrated, the blanket training. If you know they're harming their children in a real way, then you get social services involved. You call social services. You don't, or you try to talk to them and then you call social services and know that the friendship is probably over or the family relationship, but you have to protect kids. So generally just love them. That's all you can do. Is that really is the only message that's worth a damn out there in this world. And I leave you with the very last paragraph on this thing that made me just laugh. Sunday morning, I get up with a happy anticipation. I am about to go and worship God, the thing I live for the most. And then I started talking about sniping and problems on worship team and rehearsal. Don't think I don't struggle with this myself. I certainly do. I have someone that was house sitting for me that is still enmeshed in this crap, that can't see that the things that she did and said were wrong, and that you don't allow other people to use my house like a flop house or my things for themselves. And I'm trying to walk through this. And that meant for me going to church with my husband on Sunday, even though there were dogs and other things that really make my asthma go haywire. It was too important to actually speak to this person in a setting where nothing could go haywire because they were too worried about how everybody else around them would see them. So I knew I was able to say, hey, this was not acceptable. This was not acceptable. Where is my yarn bowl that my kids ordered for me for Mother's Day like 10 years ago? Where is this? Where is that? Why were my leather rocking chairs left outside in the rain? So I was able to say everything I needed to say and not say it in an ugly fashion. And this person was restrained. They had to react. They could not react in an ugly, nasty, or blaming way. They just said, I was trying to bless you. Well, honey, if that's what a blessing looks like, I would hate to see what your curses look like. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. That's the secret. You can't really talk anybody out of it if they don't already have an inkling that something is horribly toxic and they need to leave. This is a conclusion that everybody has to come to on their own. Sometimes it hits us hard, sometimes it's a slow, gradual thing, but everybody has to go through this. And it's better to keep the lines of communication open so this person knows that you are in their corner, regardless of what they believe, so that you become the safe person they can turn to when everything goes haywire. Love you guys. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Just make sure you don't blow off any fingers or eyeballs. I always laugh about fireworks because it was so dangerous and they make me so nervous. So I'm really glad that we're not doing that here. My poor cats don't like them. Be safe.